that all religion is interpreted by man, and then it's almost like a government. Like the Catholic Church is like a government, and not a fan of governments and people telling me what to do. But I do think it's very important to be able to read critically and to be able to read the Bible. And then how much of the Bible do I implement in my day? Like, I try to follow it all the time, almost. Like, I mean,
You going to church on Sundays?
I do go to church on Sundays,
Nice.
and that's something I started about 2 years ago. There's some Sundays I stay home and we watch it online. But I really like the Father's House in Vacaville. I like Valley Church. My parents go to Dixon Community Church in Dixon.
Is the Father's House? I've always wanted to go to a Southern church and just listen to like just
That is
the
not-
crowd going off. I want to hear the organs playing and people just getting up and just shaking, like just running up and down the aisle. It just looks like it'd be so much fun.
So I do love the worship at the Father's House. It's not exactly like that, but they have on their website, they have a whole like 3 to 4 page document on how they worship and why they worship the way they do and why they do it loud. And they have the Bible verses of like, God wants you to, from, you know, back in we just got released from slavery in Egypt to now, God wants you to like come together every few months to celebrate, to play loud music and just be happy. Yeah.
Party on, God.
Yeah.
Party on,
Basically,
Jesus.
like, he didn't bring us here to be miserable. He brought us here to like enjoy life and to love each other, because we're only here for a short amount of time.
Very short.
And we need to treasure it and value it. And kids are awesome. So once you do decide to have kids, you'll see it's just like another purpose. And I think that back to mental health and transition and getting out of the military, that's something that Sebastian Younger really pointed out in his book Tribe, is that purpose. You have intrinsic and extrinsic motivations. Extrinsic is like wealth, accumulation of things, material goods. Intrinsic, like your sense of purpose, how you feel about yourself when the day is done, how important that is. But if we have a society where you can't earn enough money to buy a home, which is, just last year I got this new position and I started making 6 figures. And I was like, woo, woo, look at me, woo, woo, woo. And then it's like, well, wait, I still, along with daycare costs, which I pay $2,700 a month right now, because they're young. As they get older, it gets cheaper.
But still, because
It's so
there's
much.
not much childcare out there.
Oh, there's no under 2 care in winters. I have to
Yeah.
go to Dixon for my kids, which I love and I'm happy with now. So I'm actually considering moving to Dixon. But all they have in winters is in-home care for under 2, which again, I would have loved, but they were full. So
Of course they're full.
I went to Dixon. Yeah. It is very expensive. So like people who leave the military, who get done with college, who are like, okay, so my next step in life is this. My friend is I'm turning 40. We're turning 40 this year. Everybody I graduated with is turning 40. And she has her husband and 2 kids, and he has a good union job, and she's basically their rent's up in August. And it's like, what do I do? Because their rent, which was lovely, was $1,300. So like there's nothing. There's nothing except for like a small apartment for almost $2,000 that you can get. And of course they make just above the low income limit. So they can't apply for any of the low income apartments in town.
It's tough. Like just the cost of living. It's almost, when I was living in the Bay Area, like North Bay, like these prices of rent, everything, it's arrogant. Damn near. I know it's just the market. People want money and people are gonna pay it. So why charge less?
There's a house that I think your cousin is selling today, and it's on Valley Oak Drive, and I'm pretty sure it was originally sold for $60,000, just because that's the price of all those houses on that block, and now it's going for $600,000.
Chad, man, he's gonna make a pretty good commission.
Yeah, the commission, the real estate brokerage fee, or whatever they call it.
Yeah, there's some stories. I need to have him and Uncle Curtis on talk about. They've some stories of just what they go through as real estate agents. But Uncle Curtis, the goat, he is
floaty goaty,
the goaty.
Yeah, I floated with them before. In the
Lake Solano, 'tis the season.
Yeah,
we'll get that cold water. But so let us finally transition to what we're here to talk about. If I may, totally just yield to my ignorance of what cloud seeding is, as well as the use of silver iodide. What are these things? What is the narrative surrounding them? Because the government's pushing these things to happen, so that should be the first red flag. How are they being presented? What is the purpose of them? And what is the reality, from your opinion, what is the reality of what's happening?
Okay, so great setup. Thank you so much.
The stage is yours.
Yeah. So in 2011, I first started working at the Capitol. Somebody came into my assembly member's office with a DVD on chemtrails, and they said,
conspiracy theory, is it?
That's what everyone in my office said, is like, this is a conspiracy theory. This is funny. Ha ha ha. I think I watched a few minutes of it and was like, oh, well, everyone's saying this is a conspiracy theory. Mm-hmm. They say that the chemical trails are chemicals the government's spraying over people to alter behavior. Supposedly, that's all
the thin lines we see. It's not jet trails or whatever.
What you're talking about, condensation trails. That's what they say, contrails. Not so what we think of as contrails could be. And I think that there is some of that. There is some exhaust that then turns into a white puff, but that doesn't then expand to become a cloud. That goes away. It dissipates after a minute or a few minutes. So we do see a lot of actual cloud seeding going on. So since I thought it was a conspiracy theory, I actually looked into it, because it's something that I've been actually seeing. And I'm like, why am I seeing a lot of planes all of a sudden doing it? But at the same time, I'll see this plane and it has nothing behind it. And it's going at like the same altitude at the other planes. Mm-hmm. So if it's a condensation trail, why do they have it and this one doesn't? And so I looked into it. So guess how long cloud seeding technology has been around?
What is cloud? Is it creating clouds?
Yes, thank you for asking.
I guess the purpose first, and then what is cloud seeding?
So cloud seeding, and I'm on the Wikipedia page now, of course, is what I'm doing, because it just has the general information. It's a type of weather modification that aims to change the amount or type of precipitation, mitigate hail, or disperse fog. The usual objective is to increase rain or snow.
Wow.
Either for its own sake or to prevent precipitation from occurring in days afterwards. So what does that mean? So they use silver iodide. They use either a plane or a ground generator, or what they have now is drones. Mm-hmm. So they use one of those three technologies to disperse silver iodide into the air. The silver iodide acts like a magnet, and it attracts water molecules to it, creates bigger molecules, and then that, in theory, creates snow. And what the official report is that it increases the precipitation by 10 to 15%. That's the official story.
So that technology's been around
since
1999.
That is a great guess.
Really?
Yeah, 1944. It has a patent from the 1970s. It was used in the Vietnam War. Yes. What was it doing in the Vietnam War? It was Operation Popeye is what it was called. Operation Popeye.
I like Popeye.
Yeah. So in the Vietnam War, they used it to create monsoon-like conditions so that it would kind of stop the battle for a few days. Mm-hmm. So there was a storm coming in. They used a lot of cloud seeding. And do you remember in the movie Forrest Gump? He's walking through and talking about how it's raining when they're in Vietnam. He's like, the rain's coming sideways. It's coming from this way. It's coming from that way.
Rain came straight up.
Yes.
Yeah, he's walking through the... So was that a reference to cloud seeding?
It was most likely a reference to that time period in Vietnam when the cloud seeding was used. And then there was just like mud.
To great effect. Thick like this was working. What they were doing did cause atmospheric changes. But... that area of the world, monsoons and rain, I mean, it's very rainforest laden area. Yes. So how do we know if that was just Mother Nature doing her thing, or the American government's influence on the weather?
It's a good question. So do we know? Supposedly Operation Popeye is listed in the cloud seeding page under conspiracy theories, but then they go on to talk about what actually happened. So that's funny. It's like, it's not a conspiracy theory because you're saying that this actually happened. So Dubai is not a jungle area. Dubai is in the middle of the Middle East.
I've heard there's flooding going on yonder.
Yes, they did recently, a few months ago, have like torrential flooding. And they do use cloud seeding operations in Dubai. They use it very prevalently. So here in California, do you think they use it here in California?
I would say why not?
Oh, you bet they do.
We have the technology, but you got some statistics and facts here?
Well, this is just from SMUD. So Sacramento Municipal Utility District. SMUD has been using cloud seeding since 1969 and has found that on average, cloud seeding increases snowpack by roughly 3 to 10%. So their budget for cloud seeding right now is $1.5 million over 5 years. How they do it? They consult with a third party, RHS Consulting. They fly out of, I believe it's Utah. So this Utah company does the cloud seeding operations here in California. Each seeding event uses a handful of flares, with each flare emitting anywhere between 20 to 200 grams of silver iodide. So that's just one agency. They also talk about other California public power and investor-owned entities such as Northern California Power Agency, Pacific Gas and Electric, have been engaged in cloud seeding operations for years. The California Energy Commission, with the State Department of Water Resources in November, hosted a workshop on cloud seeding for precipitation enhancement. So it is widespread. It's happening very prevalently in California. They have cloud seeding operations at Lake Almanor.
Are other states dabbling in this?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. For sure other states do.
Is it to combat drought conditions? I mean, I was as scared about the drought as anybody else. At the same time, I think we're subject to how short our lifespans are in terms of like the overall natural cycles of nature, global heating, global cooling, and what have you. I mean, droughts are going to happen. To us, it's like, oh, this is devastating. It's our lifetime. But for Mother Nature and our planet, it is billions of years old. Is it? It just, I don't know. Is it a natural cycle or something that we... I'm fucking that guy. Are people freaking out too much using this technology to create more rain and snowpack?
That's a good question, Aaron. I don't know. Because you know what I haven't found is how many projects are happening just in California. I don't know. But I think it's weird that the climate change people who are pushing for solar panels and windmills, even though those also have their own environmental impacts, especially now we're learning that the windmills are affecting the bird and the whale populations. They're also planning to put a solar farm down in Joshua Tree and cut down about 4,000 Joshua trees.
The irony of that proposal, is that happening? That's going to happen?
That is happening. And that company who owns the property and who owns the solar farm is a hedge fund company. So that's interesting. So cloud seeding has been used for various purposes, including agricultural benefits, water supply augmentation, and event planning. But so is the government manipulating the weather and actually having adverse health effects on it? I don't know. But in China. So there's every country.
Every country is dabbling in this.
And in the Wikipedia page for China, it points out something really interesting. So the largest cloud seeding system is in China. There is political strife caused by neighboring regions that accuse each other of stealing rain using cloud seeding. So that's where it gets kind of iffy, because if the silver iodide is acting like a magnet, it is drawing in water molecules from other places. And then you think back to, okay, they've been doing this in California since the 1960s. They did in the 1980s. They do it in SoCal. So when the fires happened, they said, well, these trees were already hurt. These trees were already damaged by lack of water. And then this beetle population came in and they ate up a bunch of trees. So that made the fires, when the fires came through, they burned way more trees. But that's because of climate change. And that's the narrative. Because of climate change, the fires were much worse. So what if those trees didn't get water because the cloud seeding was actually drawing water from the air up to where the silver iodide was, and then it wasn't getting to those trees? I don't know. But in Ventura County, they had a really bad fire season. And then when it rained, which they were most likely using cloud seeding during the rain to, prevent drought, they had torrential flooding and mudslides. And these mudslides actually killed people.
And that's just the cloud seeding just amped up way too much. Like they left the faucet on. So
yeah, like if you feel how you feel about the government, do you think these people are really knowing what they're doing and thinking about the full environmental impact when they're giving money to this company in Nevada to cloud seed here in California?
I just don't. Just given the track record of this government, ask Native Americans how they feel about the U.S. government and what the handshake to the white man has cost them. Yes. African Americans, just Chinese people who built the railroads, like this. China. All the way through Vietnam. Oh, conspiracy theory. Not my favorite, but 9/11 being.
Have you looked into Building 7?
I've looked into, just seen videos enough. Like one of my buddies in college, Matt. Shout out to Matt Roars. Shout out to Bella Snow. His beer that him and our other buddy Sean created. He sent me a video of just like, how is this possible? Like the physics of it, the science. I'm like, oh God. And for some, I want to be like, no way our government's capable of that. And I'm like, absolutely it is.
You should watch.
Absolutely it is.
The Sean Ryan show. Sean Ryan was a special forces guy.
Mm-hmm.
He had Tucker Carlson on recently, and they talk about it a little bit. So what happened after 9/11, and it's in the movie Dick Cheney, the Dick Cheney movie, I think.
China.
Yeah, Halliburton became like the #1 military contractor. So I guess I never went to Iraq or Afghanistan, but I guess anything you did there was like Halliburton fork in the DFAC, Halliburton cup, Halliburton tent, Halliburton sleeping bag, Halliburton staff working there.
You're making a lot of money off this.
The Washington Post came out with the Afghanistan papers, and it talks about like these roads these contractors built to nowhere.
Just got like that is stop.
So yeah, I mean, does our government use propaganda against us in order to get us to do what they want us to do? What's stopping them? Why not? It's actually legal. And it was in a National Defense Authorization Act. It was like language slipped in there back when, guess who was president? Obama. So that was interesting.
Back to the cloud seeding. So you mentioned in your email that you believe it's having an adverse effect on the ecology.
Yes.
When it bees,
yes.
humans. So what are some of the things you're seeing? Just as like a little happy note, whenever I'm kayaking down Lake Solano, I'll see little rings like buzzing in the water. I'm like, oh, it's a bee. I'll scoop them out, put them on the front of the kayak, they dry out, and then I'll see them kind of squirming back to life, and then I bring them ashore. Aww. So I'm trying to save some bees, damn it. But so
good.
There's a little good news, but go ahead, punch us in the gut.
Yeah, and I love bees. I was a beekeeper, a very amateur beekeeper. I had 3 beehives, and I was learning from Bees Needs. If you ever need a beehive removed, Bees Needs. She's in Vacaville. Or Fairfield. So
how many times have you been stung? If you don't mind me interrupting.
Only twice.
Only twice?
Once as a kid and then once in high school. But yeah, as an adult, as a beekeeper, she got stung a few times.
And you especially never got the business?
No, but I was only a beekeeper for maybe 2 years. So
only 2 years?
Yeah.
Rookie.
Okay, so silver iodide toxicity on people. It leads to nausea, diarrhea, respiratory symptoms. So all these people who are like, I never had allergies before, and now I have really bad allergies. Maybe, I don't know. Reproductive disorders and cancer.
I don't like any of those.
Yeah, so those
nausea and like diarrhea. I just have my morning coffee. I'm already there. but no better way to start the day. But are these like
that's the first result that comes up on Google
so this is research done. Is this like statistics that an organization has aggregated of?
This is
the facts. Where'd you get these facts, I guess?
Yes, good question.
Yeah.
So the National Institutes of Health has, the trusted source of all things COVID has a lot of this information.
That was such a big, I remember in the heyday of COVID of just someone, I disagree with that, or someone speaking to the contrary to the narrative. Either way, it's like, okay, where are your facts? No, I don't believe that. It's not what you say. Oh, where'd you get that information? A lot of times if I got called out, just being an angry little man, I saw it on Instagram. That's my my source is a post on Instagram. That's where I'm basing all my anger and like my information from.
Yeah,
I gotta check myself.
Yeah,
a lot of times I gotta call my ass out for being just an ignorant, angry little man who saw something that I agree with, and then I'm like, yes, I need to perpetuate this.
Confirmation bias is strong.
Yeah, it's like, yes, that anyways.
So I'm having trouble loading this study, unfortunately. But so the National Institutes of Health actually put out a study on the effects of nanoparticles on the bee population. And
it's hurting them.
It is hurting them. It's hurting the bees. So it's also most likely hurting the fish. Like everybody, these silver iodide nanoparticles don't just stay in the air. They eventually fall down. It's like the thick haze that we've been seeing the past few days.
All over. Yesterday, come back from Vacaville, I thought it was smog.
Which supposedly we shouldn't have smog anymore because we use the California Special Blend. So then why do we have smog? And a little bit of it is that we live in an agriculture area. We live in a valley and they're planting right now. So there's still people tilling soil. But I believe, because we don't see this, like I don't remember being a kid. I don't remember being an adult seeing so much haze and so many. Anyway, so I think it's the silver iodide that as it drifts down, it then magnetically attracts the dirt. And so then you get bigger dirt particles. And then you get people who are having all these breathing issues because they're breathing in more dirt than they would if it wasn't all attracted to the silver iodide particle. I drive from Sacramento to Winters every day for work. So I see the mountains, and usually I can actually see the Sierra Nevadas when I'm driving into Sacramento, and then I can see, what are these, the Blue Ridge Mountains?
Yeah.
The Blue Ridge Mountains when I come home. So the past few days, like, you can't see these. When you're coming off the causeway, you still can't see the Blue Ridge Mountains, and that's abnormal. But again, it could be like, well, maybe it's the planting season or whatever, but like, is it? And then I've been noticing the sky the past few months. And I noticed the planes going over, and I noticed the cloud seeding. And my friend's husband made a funny joke on Memorial Day. He said, well, they're not cloud seeding today because it's a federal holiday. And what's really funny is that there were no cloud seeding operations on Memorial Day.
Really?
And it's not because there were no planes flying, because
is it military planes that are dropping the cloud seeding? Because working at the landfill, we see planes going into Sacramento Airport all the time. And like they're a little lower than... or we'd see them ordinarily, but I don't see any trails like behind them. China. It's like usually up in the sky, a jet that I can barely see, just stretching that line across the sky. Yeah. Is that like
it's usually
military?
private planes that do it.
Okay.
Yeah. So the military, I mean, I wouldn't put it past them, but like, for example, SMUD, they hire this RHS Adventures group to do their cloud seeding operation.
And so they have a private plane. All right, here's our route.
Yes, but they do fly out of the Sacramento airport. So there is actually a KCRA news reporter a year ago who went and did a little thing on the cloud seeding, and it shows the like flares that are on the tail that they shoot off as they fly over. In 2008, there was a local news article on the ground seeding operations that were going on around the basin, the Santa Ana Basin. And they showed this, like, it's like a tower, maybe 8 feet tall. And then it has little circles on it and they actually showed one getting like popped off. And I wish I had sent you this video. But he said there are 10 others around this basin. So there were 10 of those ground generator that pop off the silver iodide. And that was in 2008, just in Santa Ana. So
there's no denying that this technology exists and that there's these ground generators. Is there denying that the cloud seeding is even happening? Or like this information's out there, like, yes, cloud seeding is not a conspiracy. This is actually happening.
Yeah. And so there are some articles on that, but there were also articles like when there was torrential downpour in Dubai that said the chemtrail hoax is back in the news again.
The hoax.
Yes.
It's like, are we really supposed to believe mainstream media anymore? Like what is your most trusted source of information? When it comes to news, I don't know what to believe because what I'm being fed, what I hear and see is being spoon-fed to me exactly the way I'm supposed to see it and hear it. It's just very difficult for me to find trust in news sources these days. Where do you typically go to for some facts?
I like to go to the root source. So what I have right here is a lot of like California. And so this is just my literature review that I did for it. And I can't actually click on these. But I have a study from the water department, so california.gov. So I know that's reputable-ish because it's a .gov. So this is the report that when I read news articles, they'll reference back to. So instead of reading what the news article says. I like to click on the report and go to that report. I like to go straight to the source and then decipher it for yourself. And that's where I think like critical analysis, just being able to read critically, something that a lot of California students aren't able to do because we're 47th in education, is be able to read critically. And then we really don't challenge them, and we tell them you don't have to, because if you think critically about gender theory, if you look back at who created gender theory, the dude's a pedophile. If you look back on the study that he uses to enforce it, it was a study of twins who one twin had an accident and so grew up, even though he was a male, grew up without a penis, so they treated him as a girl. So then his study was based off of this, and pretty sure both twins ended up committing suicide later on in life. So like, this isn't a success story. It's horrifying. Yeah. It's horrifying what we're hearing about with all of this stuff. So I don't remember why I brought that up, but go to the source is basically
go to the source.
What you need to do, because if you go to, okay, what do skeletons look like? You can see archaeologists who find skeletons can tell whether you're a male or a female based off of your pelvic bone and the size of your head. So it's a lie. It is a lie to tell a woman that you can become a man, or to tell a man you can become a woman. So if we start calling people out on their lies, it's a lie to say chemtrails are a hoax. It's a lie to say that cloud seeding is not real. So like, how are the same people that are pushing climate change, that are saying man-made creations, us driving too much, us using plastic straws, us not cutting the rings off of the soda cans, or even, you know, what we're importing in, who knows, but they're trying to like guilt us. They're guilting us for the amount of plastic we use and the amount we drive, and we can't use gas powered vehicles after 2035.
There's no way, we don't have the infrastructure for it.
Yes,
for everybody in California to have electric cars. It would be the way at first, when I first heard, global warming, like, we got to do what we can. I'd ride my bike just to save fossil fuels or what have you. Wherever you land on the political spectrum, I think it would benefit us. Just, all right, Mother Nature, don't toss your trash in the waterways. Don't pour your oil out in the ocean. Like, there's objective things. It's okay. Like, for hunters, they're paying a lot of money to get those licenses, and that money's being put into ecological rehabilitation, just to help wildlife thrive. It serves us all to do our best to make sure Mother Earth is like nice and happy. When it comes to driving, some people don't have the means to. A mom of 5, single mom of 5, working a bunch of jobs, she's not gonna have the money to get that new Tesla or Prius or what have you.
No, or if she lives in an apartment, she can't install the charger for it. She lives in an apartment. She doesn't have a garage.
There has to be. There's the goal, and then there's China. The objective reality of where we're at, what we can handle. It'd be nice and good if we can be a little nicer to the environment. But let's live in reality right now. People got to get to work. They got to survive. And right now, we don't have that flying car technology. We don't have
Not yet.
This infinite renewable energy source that is carbon neutral. We're not there yet. And I'm not gay no more. It does bum me out when I see like a big old jacked up pickup truck just see a big black cloud puff up in the air. I'm like, oh, damn it all.
Those are so fun to drive, though. Have you ever?
Driving the big boy trucks out of the landfill, you do feel empowered. You feel big, and it's it is nice. Tractor therapy helps with those big old trucks, and I wouldn't put it past. You can't blame a mom if they get an excursion or this giant car. If you're going to protect your kids, drive a tank. Drive a tank on the freeway, because yesterday was just some of the worst drivers around. I just been like on edge of late, and then just being behind. Some of the worst drivers from the Bay Area decide, I'm going to drive in Winters today. Tried to pass somebody up after Yellow Housing going towards Davis. Went to take the left around the guy, and then he like swerved in my way. Ended up swerving to make a point almost. Like slammed on my brakes, like freaking out. The things I say in my car would get me canceled immediately. But the person pulled off and made a left turn eventually. I'm like, you did not. I don't know. I was on one. I was on one yesterday. I'm not my best when I'm driving.
Nobody is. And that's
mentally,
what social
emotionally.
media is almost like road rage on the internet. So none of us are at our best there.
Not at all. And it's so easy to, these days I'm all about vibes. Like somebody's in a come and you could sense it. And I'm trying to incorporate this idea that I concocted when I'm writing my novel of just, there's us like in our physical selves being able to talk, but like what's fueling, like look into someone's eyes, you can see their soul, what's making this person move and think. And yes, there's the physical body, but where's the personality come from? Like where is that? It's all part of just the vibes of who we are. And in road rage mode, it's just all negativity. So try to let someone, hey, if someone's about to pull in, take that spot. You can pull in or merge ahead of me. Yeah. Just little acts of kindness. I mean, I don't know if the acts of kindness are going to solve the cloud seeding issue.
You know what? I just had someone pay for my coffee yesterday. I went through the Starbucks drive-thru, which I almost went in, and they said that lady ahead of you just paid for your coffee. And
how'd that make you feel?
Very nice. Very, very nice. And then I asked how much the coffee was behind me, and it was actually less. So like, sure, I'll pay. You started a pay it forward line.
Have you ever seen I Think You Should Leave on Netflix?
Oh, no.
It's
yes,
like
I have.
Minutes. So the guy starts.
I do love him.
Oh my, it's hilarious. He's like, I only pay for the person behind me. And the lady's like, sure. He's like, all right. And he flies around to get back inside the drive-thru. And so there's a guy ahead of him, and he just orders a ton of food. Like it's probably one of the most iconic, like it's like a 10-minute show with 30-second skits. But
I love
paying it forward's a good thing.
When he crashes the Wienermobile and he's dressed as the hot dog and he's like, who did that?
What's going on? It's so cringy. So cringy. But laughter, I think, helps, but just the overall world being able to be a better place. It starts with some laughing at oneself.
Yes.
I think some jokes. But going back on track, so cloud seeding, ecological harm to like plants, people, we live here too, animals, I assume, of flesh and fur are not taking too kindly to this. Are there like China statistics on the impact it's having on animals? And like you said, bees, very important, we need pollination.
That's a good question, and no. And that's where I think that I'm really seeing the issue is that there's no data on any of it. And it's because it is talked about as a hoax. So we can't actually go to a report. I can't actually go to the California Department of Water Resources and find this is where it's happening, this is how much, this is who's doing it, any of that. And it's all departmentalized. So like the Santa Ana watershed's doing it, the Solano County Water Agency's doing it, SMUD's doing it, PG&E's doing it, Lake Almanor is doing it.
Do they just deny it? If you ask, hey, if I called up the Solano County, like, hey, you guys, is there cloud seeding going on? Like,
they would say, yes, we allocate this much money to it, and this is who's doing it. Besides that, we probably don't know. I think that's what they would say.
But they would cop to this is going on. It's not a...
If you talk to the right agency, if you talk to the people who work with the... I mean, I couldn't even find out if they're doing it on Lake Berryessa or not, but why wouldn't they? So I think if you call SMUD, they'll say, this is where we're doing it. If you talk to the Desert Research Institute, they have scientists who have been doing it since the 1960s. So they do some of the Northern California and Nevada cloud seeding. So if I call the Desert Research Institute, they'll be able to tell me, this is where we do it, this is who we pay to do it. But that's kind of the government's role in this is, this is how much money we're allocating to drought prevention, and then this is how much money we're allocating to cloud seeding. So how are they tracking how much they're doing it where? Like when you see the big X's in the sky, is that who decides that's the spot? And then are they testing that spot months or years later to say what's the ecological effect of it? They're not.
There's no information on this, and you were led to believe that it has a profound impact whether we know what it is yet or not. There's like irreversible, it seems like we're talking with the spirit of religion, like we're trying to play God. And that's kind of frightening too, because we don't fully understand nature, the forces that drive it and why things happen. And we're trying to meddle with these things, and it just seems like there are things that maybe they should not be meddled with.
Especially if they're creating regional wars like in China. Like, you're stealing the water from our air, so we need a cloud seed to steal it back. is kind of what they're saying.
God.
Yeah.
So that has a negative impact. What are some things we can do? As I call the followers of the tap are the sliders. My nickname's Sandwich, so sliders are little sandwiches. So it's just
the sliders at Fusel's are so good.
Sliders are
so good at Fusel. They make them like a Juicy Lucy. Those are so good.
The little cheese like bomb in the middle of them.
Yes.
Yeah, the Fussell sliders. Is it a hot take to say they're the best in Winters? I don't think so. They're delicious.
You heard it here first on the tap.
On the tap, as if you didn't already know. I do want to have like ambitions to do more episodes, not just like this with individuals like yourself, but business owners in town.
Yeah.
Like every citizen of Winters, everybody in this community, that's an episode. They have a backstory. They have China. We have a lot of common backstories, but they have their own way of things, and it's just cool to get to know people. When I was writing for the paper, getting to know people, and because I used to be, I'm proud from Winters, but it was very surface level. Getting to do articles and see, these are people who are donating time, money, and effort. They're running, it's like the John Rodriguez's of the world. He's been part of so many different organizations. The old Daniel Wards of the world as well. There's my grandma Barb was part of the Fortnightly Club over like decades, 60 years plus. Like, wow, damn, like there's a lot of cool people in this town. A lot of people doing things. The Callisons are, I would say, one of the strong, like instrumental families of this town. Like my dad's got stories playing football with your dad. Like it's cool. Just generations growing up with one another, which I think makes this place the furthest thing from the worst place to be, especially when the world is as wild and crazy as it is. But what are some things we can do to help combat this hoax that is cloud seeding? What are some things we can do to?
I think just talk about it. Talk about it with your friends, and actually talk about what's going on in our world, because it's very overwhelming to say I should care about Palestine, I should care about Israel, I should care about what's in the air around me that I'm breathing in. And so that is something that does affect us. So have control of that. Talk to people about it. Talk to whoever your sphere of influence is, whether that's just your friends or family. That's fine. If you know anybody who works in one of these companies or in legislature, like, I would talk to them and I would just say, this is happening. How much is it happening? How is it affecting us? Because the 2016 line of, this is in a 2016 report from the Department of Water Resources, is that the amount of silver iodide used in these cloud seeding effects is so minimal that it does not have negative health effects. But my argument to that is they don't know. They don't know how much is being used. They don't know where it's being used. And they say they test areas that are cloud seeded versus areas that are not. Again, they don't know. And that's where my argument will be, is like, trust cloud seeding as much as you trust our government. And there you go. You got a
baseball-sized grain of salt.
And I've worked in the government since 2011, and I've been really sad to see California get worse.
Right.
It has gotten worse in the past 5 years.
Are there good politicians? There's people truly trying to do good within this giant government machine that is trudging forward, kind of, sort of?
That's a good question.
Are there goodies in there, not just all baddies?
There are a few good ones. Yes, there are a few good ones. But I will say, like, it doesn't matter which party, because both parties are open to corruption.
Absolutely.
So I would never vest my hope into a political party or into an individual person. But there are some who recognize that children shouldn't have to learn about things that they're too young to know about in public school when they're not able to read. We should focus on reading, writing, and arithmetic, and then if there's extra time. So there are good people, but the California legislature could be its own episode, because the representation we get from our legislature is minimal. There are 40 senators and 80 assembly members. That means 120 people affect the lives of the 37 million Californians. So they each represent about 500,000 or 1 million people. Like, we're anybody who's in the and so just in Solano County recently had an election. About 23% of eligible voters turned out to vote, and of that 23, it only takes like 13%, or I guess 13% total. So like 51% of the 23% to get a majority vote. So that means that there's like 83% of the county who's unrepresented because they didn't choose to vote. And then the people who did vote, their person didn't get in. Mm-hmm. So, and now picture that across the state. Like,
idiot.
40 something or even more than a majority are not being represented because they're not showing up to vote. They're not making their voice heard. And then there's such minimal representation that their hands are really tied by the special interests and by the party and whoever got them into office. So Douglas Adams, he's one of my favorite authors. He wrote The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. He's so funny and great. And he has this spiel about the president of the universe. Mm-hmm. And so they think the president of the universe is this guy. I can't remember his name, but he has two heads. He's crazy. Zaphod Beelzebrox or something like that. Zaphoid. And
I'd vote for him.
Yes. So people love him. He's like the Gavin Newsom of the world, or the young Jerry Brown of the world. Yeah. He's like cool, hip. What was that guy? Beto coming out on a skateboard. And they're like, no, this guy does nothing. Everyone thinks he's the president of the universe. The real president of the universe is actually this guy who's on a planet that rains all the time, and he's all by himself, and he has a cat, and he talks to his cat a lot of the time. But we go to him, we give him the issues, and then he tells us what to do. Because, and this is Douglas Adams' argument, the type of person that it takes to want to be president of the universe is the exact type of person that should not be president of the universe.
Absolutely.
So what we have now are all these egos that are in charge of us and are making rules. And you even see that when James O'Keefe interviews these legislative staffers or these executive staffers. And it's like you really are just a bureaucrat, but they have this like inflated sense of self. And they're like, oh, well, a good humane country doesn't have borders because I learned this in college and I'm right. And it's like every single country has borders. That's what defines you as a country.
Right.
So even though I feel like a libertarian, like we need borders, we need roads, we need a certain amount of government. But then we have these people who really shouldn't be in charge.
No, absolutely not.
Things.
So I've been warming up to Bill Maher a little bit more because he'll shit on both sides of the political spectrum.
Because he's finally, that's why you're warming up to him, is because he's finally starting to focus on his side.
I've never seen someone shit on the left in such a way because it's when you dissect of what we're allowed to joke about, who we're allowed to joke about, if you're not allowed to joke about someone, it's like, I wonder why. It's we all should be able to be joked about.
Yep. Yeah. Seth Dillon of the Babylon Bee talks about this. He says, you're not allowed to punch up, supposedly, or punch down. So the Babylon Bee.
It's like The Onion. It's like a satirical.
Yes. It's a satirical news media. So they were on Twitter before Elon Musk bought it. And Time magazine put out their person of the women's episode of the year, and they listed Rachel Levine, who was born a man, is now identifies as a woman, as one of their like top 50 women of the year. So Babylon Bee lists Rachel Levine as their top man of the year. And so Twitter kicked them off. Right. They said, if you apologize, if you say sorry and you delete the post, they said, we're not going to do that. You can delete the post. We're not going to delete the post. So that actually prompted Elon Musk. That's like one of the reasons why Elon Musk, he interviewed or sat down with Seth Dillon, and then a few months later he bought Babylon Bee. And Elon Musk did. Oh. Or not, sorry, he bought Twitter.
Yeah.
So then he called them afterwards and he's like, yeah, I bought Twitter. Your account's reinstated. So because Seth Dillon, who owns Babylon Bee, he didn't want to fold. He didn't want to say, I'm not going to listen to these people who are telling me I can't punch down, because every single person is open to mockery, especially if you are the head of Health and Human Services. Like, you can't tell me I'm not allowed to mock the king of my country, the king of my nation. Like, I'm not allowed to mock anyone, because then you're telling me you're controlling what I have to say. And so if you actually look at like forms of slavery, it's minimal to say that I'm comparing the ability to talk to people who were like forced to do labor for other people their whole lives. But if you're saying that I can't say what I want to say, then that's a form of oppression on me.
Yes, absolutely.
And just because it doesn't fall into your narrative doesn't mean that I'm now allowed to be oppressed. And I actually like fed into some of this a little bit. And I did try to like minimize myself a little bit for a while to be like, well, I didn't have it as hard as some people. And I know that. But like, I have my own story too. Like you said, every single person in town has their own story. My grandma was Hawaiian, and my grandma was raised in colonized Hawaii. And one of the things is that in schools, they were not allowed to speak Hawaiian. They were only allowed to speak English. And people don't know this. So then I have these people who went to like BLM riots, who are on social media, of course, boldly talking crap to me about, oh, well, my brother's a cop. Okay, whatever. And then this girl says something white people, and it's like, dude, you don't know me. You don't know that I'm not really white. Like, yeah, I'm white, but like, I'm an American. My grandma's a freaking native Hawaiian. So like, trying to minimize me by saying that like, because of my skin color, I'm not allowed to speak up or I'm not allowed to say something is like untrue, and it's oppressive, and it's weird. It's
ignorant, and it's just short-sightedness of just, they want the world, they want to burn someone, and it just shows a lack of intelligence also of just, it's such low-hanging fruit. The race card, like, to say there's no race issues going on, like, come on now. It's 2024, race is still a huge, like a hot topic, even though I'm like, why can't we just acknowledge that we're all human beings?
Doesn't it seem like on a personal level, like there's not, like on a personal level within the community, you're friends with everyone, and most people are friends with everyone. So the race thing is, in my mind, the media narrative playing up some divisiveness that maybe Obama played up too by talking about the cops and how cops should have responded. And he really played up the whole like hands up, don't shoot narrative when everyone now knows that that's not really what happened. So the race thing, especially to say that we're in a racist country after we elected a black man as president. Black people have just as much opportunity in this country as white people, and they did for a century. So now there's a lot of talk about the civil rights movement and how that actually victimized the community and made people, so this whole victim mentality of like everyone's a victim. And I see why high schoolers and middle schoolers get, they're vulnerable to that because they want attention and they want to feel like there's something about them that makes them unique. And there is something about them that makes them unique, but it's not their ability to change or to identify as something. It's like their soul and their personality and the things they find funny and interesting. And like every single person finds something different interesting. And James Madison talked about this in the Madison Papers. He talks about how there are like countless factions and idioms among men. And that's like thoughts and ideas. Like you cannot number them because we're so unique and valuable. So China. I understand why kids fall to this, and we really need to hold adults accountable. And we need to stop coddling these adults who want to tell me they know what's best for my kid, because that's actually something that's happening in the California legislature right now, is that there's a group of senators and assembly members who just amended a bill to make it so that if a student does identify as a different gender or as a member of the LGBT community, the school staff are not allowed to tell the parents. And that's why if this bill goes forward and gets signed by the governor, it will make it so not only do they have this as like a policy now, this is a policy now where they have these gender plans that students can fill out and the teachers will keep private. But there are some teachers who don't want to, who are like, no, we shouldn't keep secrets from these parents. And there are parents who testified at this committee. Sorry, I'm going on a tangent.
You're good.
There are parents who testified just last week at this Senate committee hearing on this bill. And they had children who went through the school system whose like identity was hidden from the parent. So they were being called a different gender, a different name at school than they were at home. And then these children, they're not going to be happy by having a secret identity. Like secrets don't make you happy. Secrets might make something like exciting for a little bit, but they're ultimately like they're destructive to you if you have a secret for a long time. So to have a secret life, like as a young child, that's very like that damages you and your personality. And I think at least one of these young girls ended up committing suicide. And it's not because, so this is where they twist it. and they get these like kind people on the school board to be like, well, we're helping kids, is they say, if you don't coddle your kid and if you don't identify and if you don't lean into their gender identity, then they're going to have adverse mental health effects. Mm-hmm. The kid already has adverse mental health effects if they're saying there's something that they're not, or their parent has adverse mental health effects because they're trying to get their kid to identify as another gender. Mm-hmm. So we really need to start looking at it for what it is. And it's like, if I'm a girl, and I always wanted to do stuff my brothers did, like that's just what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. I wanted to play football as a sophomore because I thought I'll be the older age of the JV team and it could be fun. And my dad's like, it will not be fun. And I didn't know, but like I probably would have been miserable getting, guy talk on the bus and in the locker room, and then all the hard work and the way the coaches talk to guys is just different. And like and now I see it immensely with just having a son and a daughter. And like whatever, I have all the toys out for them and they immediately, like my daughter just likes certain things my son does. And rather than saying, oh, because you like this, now I'm going to make that your identity.
It's like, no, there's different inclinations towards either way. Is it too feminine to paint? Like, I like drawing and being crafty. I saw my mom was one of the most badass scrapbook, her and all my aunts scrapbook. And we're like, I love this. This is dope. Stickers and just the creativity aspect of it. It's seeing children to me are so precious, especially 5 years old, like, because they don't give a shit about race or religion, politics. We're human beings. Yep. They don't give a damn. There's no racism with kids. They're just too pure. And it's once they grow up and they get ideologies smashed into their brains about, oh, you need to treat people differently. Like, no, it's like we're being bred just. The culture these days, it's the differences between us. There's supposed to be differences and divide us, where it's like, are you kidding me? So I love winters or going to cities because there's Mexican culture. You go to the city, there's a lot more, just the differences between us and what make, I think, this country so crazy. Black people, Asian people, Filipinos, there's every different flavor of person is what makes it so special. Our differences are what I think makes this place so freaking awesome, and it's not what should be something that divides us.
Yeah, I think that what should divide us is more of like, oh, the government's trying to stop me from speaking or stop me from owning a firearm or stop me from gathering. They're shutting down our business but leaving open. They shut down gyms but left dispensaries and liquor stores open. Yeah. So that's interesting. Stores. Or you can't go to the beach. They filled skate parks with sand so people couldn't skateboard. Like, they took down slides from playground equipment and roped it all off with caution tape. They took down basketball hoops.
If there were, I know this sounds morbid, but I've said it in the past, like I would need to see way more devastation for me to adhere, like, okay, I need to get vaccinated. Let's get on board. If it was the Black Plague, 2 out of every 3 people that we know are dead. It's like, all right, let's get on board, you guys. This wasn't that. China.
No,
in my opinion,
no, it wasn't that. But what it revealed who wanted to push it to be like that, because a lot of the news agencies were showing repeated, like, oh, these people collapsing on the streets in China. Or in Italy, they were showing like the hospitals, or they were showing footage of a hospital in New York, but turns out that was actually footage of a hospital in Italy.
Yeah, there's no people just see, I see what that headline, that's all I need. Zero context. Zero context about what is being said, why it's being said, and who's saying it, and what their agenda may be. Yes. Everything there comes across the TV, your social media, it's all meant to be there to make you feel a certain kind of way. That's why I think it's so funny. Critical thinking, like you said.
Yeah, critical thinking. Like when the flooding happened in Dubai and they're like, chemtrail hoax back in the news. Like, okay, so they are cloud seeding. And then they talk about in that article how there's like 12 cloud seeding operations going on in Dubai.
It's just to be aware. Like, yes, there's conspiracies out there. It's just wacky patacky. Like, okay, you don't need to go off into fantasy land. But talk to people. I think it's important. People are so set in their tribe that we forget to have conversations and talk with other people who have stark differences in their religion or political ideologies to give us a better, more well-rounded, like, kind of perspective on things. Doesn't mean you have to agree with them. Like, some of my most cherished people in my life. Not see eye to eye politically, but I don't need to hate them.
Yeah.
Not at all.
No.
And just keep our heads out of our asses when we're able to have someone maybe call us out. Like, hey, why do you think that way or feel that way? Maybe we don't question ourselves as much as we should. We just believe. I'm like, why do I believe this?
Yeah.
I definitely would be a hypocrite to say I've adhered to other points of views. I'm like, that doesn't align with what my imagination's telling me or my assumptions. So off.
Yeah.
Respectively.
And you're open-minded, which I think is what everyone should be and most people are. But again, somebody twisted it. So then open-minded is accepting of all these like ulterior ideologies. And it's like, no, I'm open to hearing about it. And then I'm going to take in the truth for myself and figure out, does this contrast or compare with what I believe in?
No.
And with what reality is.
So I like to, we've talked about a lot. We've been 2.5 hours. This is one of those good old fashioned pods that it just seems like it's only been 10 minutes. 10 minutes. So quick, before we leave here, do you have the time limit when you need to leave?
No.
Oh, okay. So we do this usually pretty quick. It's called Off the Cuff.
Okay.
It's 10 kind of random questions that may or may not have anything to do with what we've been talking about, but a nice way to kind of put a nice bow on top of everything we've talked about. So are you ready for it?
Yes.
All right, here we go. Question number 1, ranch or blue cheese?
Ranch.
That is the right answer. That is the right answer. I love asking people that. Everybody has an opinion on it. I'm going to die on that ranch hill. But if anybody says blue cheese, I like just over embellishing and going over the top of just the scourge that is blue cheese.
Oh, you mean moldy cheese?
Moldy nonsense. Oh, works best on wings. Screw that. Shove your blue cheese up your ass. If you could revive one OG Winters restaurant, what would it be? Or business?
Dean's Frosties.
Dean's?
I love Dean's Frosties.
Dean's could
back
still
in the day.
exist. Why did it need to get torn down?
I think for the parking.
Oh, parking. I mean, Pisani's could use some parking, but I've
so
never
that guy could pull his pickup truck up there and sell is that bunches of cilantro he's selling?
Oh, at the
every once in a while in that corner, there's bunches of cilantro in a truck, or like Valentine's stuff. But I actually wanted to ask you. I know this is off the cuff.
Yeah.
Those 2 new taco stands that are in town over by the Winners store and across from the school board. Have you frequented?
Recently had the one across the street from formerly Tomates.
Yeah.
My lady Omira brought tortas. I was like, let's get a torta. She brought tortas. Lackluster, to say. I want to do like a breakdown on these pop-up taco joints, because I'm like, all right, cool, small businesses, let's go. I
would love to hear that episode of like, are they licensed? Where is their food coming from? Where is it cooked? Do they wash their hands? Where?
Some questions are better left unasked, I guess, because I'm like, there's dust kicking up. They're literally on a dirt road.
Yeah.
But it wasn't bad food, but it wasn't like, there's no refried beans, there's no lettuce in it. It was asada, cheese, and onion, which is okay, but I need more.
Yeah.
Necesito más in my torta. So Dean's is a great answer.
What's your answer?
Dean's has got to be it.
Yeah.
Dean's.
Those Frosties.
Shout out to Cody's.
Oh yeah.
And also shout out to Warrior Video.
Warrior
The
Video.
little Warrior Video with the Pizza Factory.
Yeah.
Zaza. Man, that was fantastic.
That was a good night.
That was a good night. Solid. Everyone, like one of the last visits to Warrior Video. They're about to close. My buddies and I got pizza. And we got the Onion movie. You know the Onion.
Yes, I do.
And
with the Peruvians shoot lasers out of their eyeballs. That's what was in the Onion movie. Yes.
Oh my.
That was the. They're like, don't say that about Peruvians. That's racist. And then at the end, there's like an evil guy in the studio, and the Peruvians shoot lasers out of their eyeballs and kill him.
And it's a joke.
Yes,
it's a joke.
So
it can
funny.
Take jokes.
I love it. I love parody.
The parody is great, and that's why like it's so important for those things to still exist, because the thought police is out there disguised as cancel culture. But when you see, they've redefined homelessness, now it's called the formerly housed or what have you, what we're allowed to say or not say, and the way we're able to say it. Like, I don't like how close George Orwell is to where we're at now. It's horrifying.
One of the things he said in his book is like there were rumors of wars, there were stories of wars where there had been no fighting, and there were battles with thousands of deaths that there was not a word of.
Nothing.
And that reminds me of today with the whole 1,000 people in Niger, and why were they there, and we never heard about any of that.
There's that, but what also sticks out to me the most from 1984, other than the thought police of what's going on, but how they would stoke the rage and hate rallies there, getting people to hate these other, instead of one another, because they're straight up communism, the other countries. They would parade the other prisoners from these other countries, and it's just that to stoke that manic hate, or people are just losing their minds. Whereas with us, it's hating each other's politically, or woke people hating rednecks, vice versa. When it's like, maybe if we all just, I feel like the world can be solved whenever there's like the BLM riots, cops and protesters, what have you. Take a cop and a group of people that think different, give them a joint, have some food, talk about where you're from, how you grew up, and just get to know each other on a human level, rather than, oh, you're a cop, you're a bloodthirsty maniac who should be defunded or what have you. No, these are brothers, sisters, dads. Like, we need to remind ourselves that we're all humans still.
Dude, Natalie Corona, you remember the Davis police officer who was shot on the side of the freeway because she was pulling over to help a disabled vehicle out. Somebody just came out of their apartment and killed her. That one shook me. She was, I believe, 21.
Very young.
Very young, yeah.
Young, beautiful. Like, I drive by that bench that they have for her. It's just like, really, this is what's got to happen. Ambushing cops. Like, is anarchy the answer?
No, definitely not.
No, we're not there. But anyways, off the cuff. That wasn't off the cuff question. Where's the favorite place you've traveled? Would you say it was South Korea?
I think Hawaii.
Hawaii?
I think Hawaii is my favorite. And I've only been to Oahu, so I've only been to the very populated area. But my grandma grew up there. My dad lived there for a while. I still have aunties there. And I just love it. I don't know if I would live there because it is a very small island. It takes 2 hours to get anywhere.
It's unfairly beautiful.
It's so beautiful.
Like, how in the hell would, like, this is just unfair. Some people are stuck in a cubicle all day, and then there's life out here.
Yeah, and it is beautiful. It is beautiful. So that's one of my favorites. Yeah,
California pricey too, no less. If you were a dog, what kind of dog would you be?
China.
Oh, that's a weird question.
It's off the cuff.
I mean, I guess I would want to be a pit bull.
A pit bull?
Yeah.
What color?
Brindle.
There's some spots.
Dude, I'm just describing my dog at this point. I want to be a Brindle pit bull. I want to be Seabark, short for Charles Barkley. He passed at 17, so he had a long life.
Oh, very good. That's a good long life for a pupper.
Yep, he was awesome.
Good. Shout out to him, to the dogs we've had. That's Sammy up there, Black Lab. She was a good pup. That one, very devastating. When we had to put her down, like, it just ripped my heart out. I didn't want a pet ever again.
That's a beautiful little memorial to Sammy.
My mom made it.
Your mom's awesome.
She's a super creative lady. All right, little pit bull action, very good. What is your ideal sandwich?
Ideal sandwich.
Your ideal sandwich. Little.
You know, I always, it's kind of, I don't know, it sounds gross actually to me, but I always order a tuna at Subway.
A tuna melt.
I like tuna and I like it toasted. Yeah.
What kind of bread?
I do the Italian urban cheese.
That's the way to go, for sure.
It's so good.
Do you like chopped up red onions in there at all?
No, I don't like raw onions.
Really?
I'm picky and I'll pick it out, but I'm not really that picky. It's just like I don't like raw onions. I order my bean burritos at Taco Bell with no onions.
Yeah.
But I'll eat cooked onions. Like I really like sauteed onions with steak.
Oh God, yes.
I'll eat onions and chili and salsa, and I'm not that much of a baby. My brother David, I love you, David. Big baby about onions. He's listening to it.
He's no onion guy. Big strong Dave.
Yeah. No onions.
No onion guy.
And his son,
Little
David. Yeah, he also no onion guy.
No onion guy? Talk about corruption.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Well, that's a damn shame. But a tuna sandwich, though, nice.
I don't know why, but I would normally order turkey or ham. But yeah, at Subway, I always get tuna.
So there's like Subway. I mean, it's good.
Is yours a torpedo?
No torpedo. It's actually, give me a grilled chicken sandy, a nice like brioche bun or something. You can put some bacon on there and a nice garlic pesto aioli or something like that. So
you're talking about like the chicken breast that's grilled?
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are
and
good
some
sandwiches.
grilled onions are also like that nice kind of brownish gooiness. Oh God, yes. Okay. Summer or winter?
I wanna change my answer real quick to a cheeseburger.
Cheeseburger.
Yeah, that's what
burgers
I.
are sandwiches.
There we go.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Not all sandwiches are burgers, but all burgers are sandwiches.
Yeah,
What about a hot dog? Is a hot dog a sandwich?
No, hot dog's a hot dog. You think it's a sandwich?
I believe so. Say a Philly cheesesteak, kind of like that same open. It's like an open face sandwich, damn near.
A Philly cheesesteak is a sandwich for sure.
But hot dog, it's more so of just drawing up the drama where there is no drama and just trying to stir the pot. Like, I'll just say, yeah, hot dog's a sandwich.
I'll give you this one just so we can move on to winter or summer. Yeah.
It's like, say the bottom of the bun breaks and it's just a hot dog between two thin. It's like
becomes a sandwich.
Just put it out there. We'll see. Leave in the comments, people, if you think hot dog is a sandwich or not. Summer or winter time?
Summer.
Summertime?
Yeah.
Not a bad choice. You said you're a nerd earlier. Let us test it. Dumbledore or Gandalf?
Gandalf.
Now you're talking. Yes. The best Thanksgiving dessert.
We make 7-layer bars.
7-layer bars?
Yeah.
What's
graham cracker and butter, so melted butter, graham cracker crumbs, chocolate chips, butterscotch, or peanut butter chips. Keo really likes peanut butter chips.
Of course he does.
Coconut on top with sweetened condensed milk over it.
Is this like a dip? Like, or you just stick a spoon in it?
Cook it in the oven and then you shake it out, let it cool down for a little bit, and then you slice it and give it as bars. So I actually Googled like.
And you're just.
Yeah, it's a bar.
No
it's
way.
like almost like a brownie.
Yeah,
but it's harder. It's so good. It's got to have like 1,000 calories, but it's delicious.
If it's a holiday, calories are non-existent.
That's something that like we grew up with. I think it's on the sweetened condensed milk can. There used to be like the recipe on the can were these 7-layer bars.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I was a 7-layer dip guy. I didn't know there's 7-layer bars.
It's very good. Next holiday, you gotta stop by, get a 7-layer bar.
Gonna have to just drive by the Callison Thanksgiving. My duplex mate Stephanie, cousin Steph, makes a apple pie cheesecake.
Ooh.
It's just like cheesecake kind of guts with like the cinnamon drizzle on it with the nice. It's more of a cheesecake crusty crumb instead of apple pie crust.
That sounds
but
awesome.
It's like
okay.
That'll be my last meal forever.
I'll stop by at Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
time
absolutely. We'll swap. If you could have a drink with any historical figure, who would it be?
Oh, that's very interesting because, like, I want to say Jesus. I'm not sure if he would have a
glass
drink,
of wine for sure. He's a wine guy.
Yeah. So that would be excellent. Yeah, I would say Jesus.
When he turned water into wine? I asked this to some of the at Brentley's bachelor party. Shout out to the bachelor party, the Oregon boys.
Congratulations, boys. Brentley.
Brentley's a guy. He's that guy. I have a sound clip. He hit a golf ball, perfect drive, best shot of his life, and he's just like,
I'm fucking that guy.
I'm that guy. Like, he's like,
I couldn't picture that. I love Brentley. I just got to see him for Kelly's 30th birthday.
Oh, really?
So that was fun.
Oh, yeah. Brentley,
everyone came dressed as Kelly. Yeah, that was the theme. So there were some Domino's drivers, some Hawaiian shirt people. Brentley's girlfriend was wearing an Eagles jersey, which was a callback to their old English project. Have you ever seen Santos y sus Amigos? I'll play it for you after. It's ridiculous. But it was Brentley, Nick, Kelly, a few other people. Book report. It was ridiculous. I think somebody drinks pee in the desert to survive, and they depict that in the video.
Very good. Shout out to Steph. Good on you. Hold on. So Jesus. So I asked this question to these guys over there. Kelly was there. What a great time. He had my back a couple of those nights when I was drunken and unruly. What kind of wine did Jesus turn the water into? Like a rosé, a Malbec, like a thick red? What kind of wine was Jesus sipping on?
That's a good question, because after he turned the water into wine, so if you know the story, what happened is that they were at a wedding and they ran out of wine. So
sounds like a good wedding.
In Galilee, they would actually, like, everybody from the wedding party would go into this courtyard and then they'd shut the gates. So then you're just like, you're all partying for a few days. So when they ran out of wine, it was like a bummer, but they also had this real status thing about weddings. So you want to have like the best wine at the beginning, and you want people to know that like you have the good wine. And then as people get drunk, you give them the like crappy wine,
watered down nonsense, some
the
$2
PBR,
check.
$2 check.
Yeah, absolutely.
So So then after Jesus turned the water into the wine, they're like, this is the best wine we've ever had. So I feel like...
Ooh, a swill?
It's got to be like a Cabernet Sauvignon, maybe.
It's like a low-level miracle he pulled off. It's
yes.
like he could have been more, but he's like, eh.
No, he made the wine. They were like, why'd you wait till the end to serve this? You should have served this at the beginning. So, like, what's your favorite wine?
Oh, I love it's specific. It might be all filled with chemicals, but I mean, I'm an American. What do I know?
What do we know?
It's called Apothic Inferno, and it's a red, but it's fermented in whiskey barrels. So you get a little spice, a little something.
Interesting.
I enjoy a good whiskey, so that has to be my favorite.
So it could have been that. I don't know.
Maybe. Oh, Jesus, playing a little danger. It'll get you drunk.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that.
It'll get you drunk.
All right, so to round this bad boy off, what is your all-time like best sports highlight as your time as an athlete at Winters High School?
Oh man,
your number one, your highlight that you get to the pearly gates and there's just a highlight reel. What's like your number one sports highlight?
I'm the least athletic of all my siblings, so I really liked volleyball,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess my senior year of volleyball, just like being there was very fun. But I don't have an actual like.
Nothing sticks out like you like had a dig or like a spike or maybe even in practice. Was it just volleyball that you played?
I played volleyball. I played, I think, one season of softball. I played one season of basketball, mostly on the bench. A lot of my sports were spent on the bench. And softball, I really liked catching because then I got to like be on the action.
Yeah.
You know? And I did swim team.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah.
But like a lot of the things I remember are things other people did. Like, okay, so Claudia Rodriguez, her brothers, Aaron and Michael, and then her sisters, Tracy. So Claudia, her kids go to school with my kids. And I just was talking to her last week. I remember this in high school. We're at an away game and Claudia's like trying in this basketball game, and she takes the ball and she chucks it down the court, like overhand throws it, and just hits this guy who's walking on the sideline square in the back. So that's my favorite, I guess.
Whiff. Hey, just a line drive basketball toss in the back.
Yes, and I was like, dude, Claudia, do you remember this? And we graduated 2002. She graduated 2001. She's like, I do remember that.
God, the world back then, easier times, but I think it starts rounded back to like good vibes. It all starts, at least in my opinion, to start turning the tide of all these things, to be able to laugh, reminisce on good times, but also spread these good vibes, acts of kindness, because what I think is hurting the most, mental, emotional wellness, and just be good people to one another. I think once we all start perpetuating these good vibes, they're going to spread, and that's a good foundation at least to start building from.
Yes.
To start making this change.
Yes.
And turn this world to a better place.
Like, focus on enjoying the day. If you have a hard time enjoying the day, maybe you might need some like extra mental health help in order to get there, or just talk to your friends and tell them like, hey, this is the problem I'm struggling with. And what I found is that these things that I felt like were very unique, once I talk to someone about it, it's like, oh no, my cousin does that, or my sister, or like I have went through that. So every time that I've actually like, oh, I'm really struggling, but it feels like nobody else can be struggling with this, and they're gonna think I'm like not a good person, or like a bad mom, or a bad employee, or whatever. No, nobody thinks that. People care. People really do, and they all have their own life and struggles. So there's no reason to act like you're not struggling, because everyone's struggling. So it's like, how can we still enjoy the day and enjoy our family and friends in our community? And yeah, I appreciate you so much.
Gratitude, and I appreciate you so much coming in as well. Thank you so much. Great handshake, by the way. Thanks for coming in. And well, let's come back a while later, see where we're at with more the legislature, things that need to be. When things need to be talked about, damn it, I know to a call. Yeah. Know to a call. And because usually this is more, I'd say a little more lighthearted, but hey, the tap is, call it trial and error, like just to try new things. And I'm yet to have a podcast episode and guest where we've talked about deep things, but in terms of politics, policies, legislature, and ecological impact, everything we just talked about, this has been, I think, a great way to take the podcast in the right direction. In terms of like keeping it silly because there's sometimes episodes just talk about movies, poo-poo pee-pee jokes, what have you. But also keeping it well-rounded with serious conversations such as this. So starts with the chat, and hopefully edit this, spread it to the masses. Again, Jenny, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you. This has been very fun.
It is only 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Okay.
Lordy. All right. Bye, everybody.
You lose. Good day, sir.